Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday night's event, Creative Solutions for the New Normal with Shutterstock. So my name, for those of you who don't know me already, is Bri Castellini, your moderator and your new best friend for tonight's session. I am formerly Stareable's community director, though I still did pitch in for this year's Stareable Fest, an event that I love deeply, and I'm so excited to be coming to the virtual stages this year instead of just not happening. Currently, I am Seed and Sparks Film Community Manager, as well as an adjunct professor at LIU Brooklyn and Stevens College, where I teach web series and digital media. In my off time, which admittedly there is not much of, I am a writer, director, and podcaster. So if you didn't already know, Stareable Fest is the premier annual indie TV and web series festival in the US and the new home for digital creative talent in the TV industry. We honor the year's best content, provide a space for the next generation of creators to connect with industry executives, grow their network, learn new skills, and build community. So that's why it's really exciting that you're all joining us today. Welcome to our new community that we're building together, friends. Today, I am joined by three awesome creative people who will share the challenges and opportunities of producing independent content at all, their thoughts and strategies for navigating a COVID and post-COVID entertainment industry, and how content libraries and skillful post-production can make creators' lives easier and their projects better. But first, of course, we would like to thank our fest sponsors, including Dell Technologies, AMC Networks, Shutterstock, and Adorama. So the structure for this event will be a pretty traditional panel. We're going to chat amongst ourselves. I've got a handful of questions prepared, but if you have questions, please feel free to send them our way. We may answer some early on, so if you have a question about like an active point of conversation we're having, please feel free to send it through and we might address it then. But there will definitely be just like a straight up Q&A bit at the very, very end of this. So in the last like 20, 15 minutes, that's really when the Q&A starts. So if you want to wait until then, feel free. But otherwise, if you want to chime in earlier on, please feel free to do so as well. So let's talk about this shindig that we've got going in case this might be your first event with us. So if this is your first event here at Stareable Fest Virtual 2020, here's just a few notes about interacting with this platform. So the TV icon you see on the left side of your screen will open up a virtual screening room to watch any of the shows in the official selections pool this year. Definitely recommend doing that, but please wait until after this workshop because I'll be very sad if you all leave to go watch the awesome shows, but definitely do it afterwards. You can also click on anyone in the audience to start a private chat with them if that's your thing. But again, this is my time, or I guess our time. So please spend it with us. But hey, maybe chat somebody up during the show or afterwards to, connect with this new community we've all made. And if you haven't already, please allow your browser to enable your camera and your mic. The gear icon in the top right corner will allow you to do that and change your setting to enable it. So that way it actually feels like a real in-person crowd. That might be triggering for some of us, but you know what? I think we will push through and we'll all be better for it on the other side. And most importantly, in terms of logistics, we will be taking your questions and comments. So in order to participate in that way, use the hand icon to raise your hand if you have a question and would like to come up on stage with us. So if you actually want us to see into your world and see your camera and hear your beautiful voice. But if you would rather just submit the question and kind of stay out of it, feel free to do that with the little question mark bubble, and you can just type us the question that way. So whichever way you want to participate, we absolutely welcome it. But I think that's just about enough of me for this time. So I am going to invite our wonderful panelists on today. So Flo, Hung, and Rohil, please join me up here. Hello, welcome. So if you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourself by name and pronouns, just to make sure that we're all inclusive. I'm Bri Castellini, she, her, by the way. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Your experience, your job title currently, and what you're working on these days. What thing that you made recently that you'd like to share with us. So Flo, why don't you go first?
My name is Flo Lau. I'm creative director at Shutterstock. So I have a semi-interesting background. Going back to my childhood, I grew up in Hong Kong for 15 years. Then I came back to New York to finish my education and started off my creative career. Since then, I have worked at multiple brands ranging from electronics and appliances to large fashion retailer. And now I'm leading a team of amazing creators at Shutterstock, really helping out filmmakers and photographers all around the world. Regarding filmmaking, working at a global company with a whole lot of stock footage and music really does give me some great insights, along with some of the biggest production companies being our enterprise clients. That's definitely helpful. So super excited to be here and share my experience in the industry today.
Excited to have you. Rohil, what about you?
Yeah, my name is Rohil. I'm a writer filmmaker from South Africa. I have an official selection in this festival called An Introduction to Thriving. It's a short film about international students. And I'm also currently a writer on an animated series at Rooster Teeth called Recreo. And I also have surprisingly manageable anxiety, given that there are a bunch of floating heads staring at me.
Yeah, and they're all kind of twitching. It's almost very unnerving. There's
yes, the twitching.
Hung, what about you?
Hi everyone, I'm Hung. I am a Vietnamese American writer-director. I have an official selection here as well called Sideways Smile. It's a comedy about a woman who is on a journey of self-discovery after reluctantly enrolling in a class to learn how to have an orgasm. My show is probably not very safe for work, but we're not at work today, so.
Perfect. Honestly, the best part about quarantine has been everything is safe for work now.
Yeah.
So welcome all of you. So I guess my first question that I want to ask is, how are you guys doing? Is everyone okay? How's it going? What is something that stood out from quarantine? If you guys want to, Flo, you want to start us off again? Just give us an update. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. And I think back in March when the lockdown first happened, right? Like we go from a full on-site team to now everybody's remote and working from home. And then at the same time as a brand, we're pivoting and doing a bunch of changes on marketing campaigns. So there are campaigns that we worked so long together on, and now we realize that it's no longer relevant, it's tone deaf. Then we had to pivot and change something and came up quickly on a COVID resource hub to help our contributors. So it was just quite a big change for the first few months, but now everything is back to a little bit normal again. Now everybody is getting used to this working from home thing, and we're being as efficient as we can. And everybody is in my team, luckily, is healthy and happy. So
I'm glad to hear that. Where are you based, Flo?
We're in New York. Our office is in Empire State Building, but right now I'm in New Jersey.
Got it. Okay, cool. Rohil, what about you? How are you doing? Are you okay? You have apparently manageable anxiety, which I'm fascinated to learn more about.
That's I'm a liar. That was a straight up. That was a straight up lie, and that's something you will learn about me on this panel. No,
one of the panelists always lies. One of the panelists always tells the truth. Which one is it?
No, it was. Yeah, I think for everyone, it was a bit of a rough start, and I've just recently gotten into the swing of remote work. I'm very fortunate that these last few months I was able to do more writing and things like that, and get remote work writing. And I think the more I was able to sort of keep myself busy, the less I don't have to think about the world burning.
Sure.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I'm glad to hear that as well. Hung, what about you?
Same. I think I've been actually between Vermont and Providence, which is where I actually moved out of New York from in July. So it's been really nice to be able to be in the outdoors and just enjoying at least the summer. And it's been really exciting to see our show kind of go to the festivals. We have a lot of festivals this month. So that's just been a big highlight of a very horrible 2020.
Yeah, well, congratulations. You're also at New Fest this weekend, aren't you?
Yes, we are at New Fest. It just launched today. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, definitely. I want to make sure that we say this. Congratulations to both Rohil and Hung for being official selections this year, both in comedy categories. So hopefully we'll have a lot of fun in this panel. So my first official question that I wanted to ask is to Flo. So Flo, from the Shutterstock perspective, obviously stock libraries are frequently touted as a way for filmmakers and creators of all kinds to kind of diversify their income streams, since very few award-winning filmmakers actually make their full living from the films they make. So I wanted to ask you, from that perspective, how is Shutterstock helping filmmakers make money, especially during these times? And do you have any tips for the filmmakers out there looking for new income streams to maximize that opportunity?
Yes. So at Shutterstock, we have two sides of users, right? One is our customers, and another is our network of 1 million contributors from all around the world. So we recognize that a lot of our contributors, especially these days, do use stock to generate extra income. And the fact that our company's success is highly depending on our contributors' success as well. So our team is always looking for ways to educate content creators, like providing tips and tutorials on our blog, written by our team of industry experts. And we also sent out a monthly report to our contributors called the Shot List, where we analyze our customers' search data and patterns, and then send out our insights to our contributors so that they know what kind of content is on demand now and in the upcoming month. So this really equips the creators, which is our contributors, with the knowledge to produce content that sells faster, which would generate more revenue for them. Now, we're also always coming up with new ways to make our contributors' work more accessible too. So our API team integrates our content onto softwares like Final Cut Pro, Wix.com, Adobe Creative Cloud, and Facebook, so users can download our content directly on these platforms. So maximizing the revenue generating opportunity for our contributors as well. And also, like, shooting for stock content is just something that artists can control and they can appreciate. Like typical shooting gigs, like they don't provide flexibility, right? So shooting stock content really allow them to work at their own pace and create what they want, how they want it, and when they want it. So it's also a great way for them to repurpose B-roll and make some money out of it. From a tip standpoint, it's always smart to shoot stock content in conjunction with your other productions to maximize output, right? So, for example, when you have a whole day booked with equipment or a studio and your production only takes half a day, you can use the rental to shoot for stock and put your production time towards generating revenue. And last but not least, from a tip standpoint, it's really to pay attention to trends and what your viewers are looking for and find ways to interact with them and trigger their interests.
Very cool. Yeah, definitely for any kind of creator out there, no matter what you're doing, think about who this is for. I think too many filmmakers are up in their own heads about like, what is my vision? But your vision should be as much about what people will be watching of yours as what you want to see in the world. So that's great advice, though. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So for my filmmakers, my question for you guys to start off with is, for the projects that were accepted into Stareable Fest this year, I wanted to know, what did you already have access to when you began production? So like when you were thinking, okay, this is the project I want to make this year, this day, whenever you actually started these projects, what was your starting point? Was it like you already had a handful of collaborators you wanted to work with, or maybe some equipment or a cool location that you knew you could shoot at? Like, what was the starting point for these projects? Hung, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so we had shot the pilot. It was a self-funded pilot in 2017, so before all of this. And so we had, yes. And so from that, we actually got a grant. So the first thing we got was money to actually make the full season. And then I had producers on board already. And I think that was kind of the starting point, like getting someone who is going to be your partner in producing. And then from their network, I'm kind of new to this. And so it was really important to have a network of people who had already been in the industry or, just like in the indie film industry, to be able to like bring on the DP, bring on an AD, etc. And I think another resource for New York women filmmakers, there's an amazing Facebook group called NYC Women Filmmakers. And I mean, we source a lot of our crew from that group. So that was a big help.
Facebook's a lot of things, but what it's actually good at is connecting creative people to one another. Yeah. There's like 1 million women in film, New York-based Facebook groups, let alone whatever location you guys all might be at. So that's also definitely a great tip. So Rohil, what about you? What was your starting point for Thribing?
So I moved to New York from Cape Town, South Africa, as an international student. All of Thribing was written and shot in the final months leading up to my graduation, where I was uncertain about whether or not I'd be able to stay in the country. So something that was very important to me is I just wanted the film to be this like special thing that was myself and all of my friends. And so that's what I had access to. I mean, it's a story about international students, so I had access to the school that I was in and I could shoot around the school and just everyone that I met on the international student journey, while they might not be filmmakers or pursuing film, it was just getting them on board to help execute that.
So it sounds like both of you, your big starting point was the people around you. So so you obviously had friends from school and from your international student community. How did you know Diane?
Diane did an improv class with my partner.
Oh, okay. See, just got to put yourself out there.
Yeah. And I remember going out to dinner with them and we like had a double date or whatever. And I was like, hey, like, I'm thinking about this thing. Do you want to produce it? And Diane was like, what do I get? like, are you going to cast me in it? And I was like, yes, I will cast you in it. You are one of the leads. Great, done. And that
honestly
was kind of
amazing, like a deal conversation. Like that's a master negotiator right there.
Yeah, over some Thai food, basically.
They got dinner out of it. They got an acting job.
Yeah.
So when you were developing these two projects, obviously you're both doing quite well with them. You're here at Stareable Fest. But did you have like a goal with these projects when you first started out? Like what would success look like to you when you first started developing this? Was it just because you wanted to tell this story full stop? Were you looking to maybe eventually pitch to TV? Or are you just looking to gain an audience? Like what was the purpose, that you started out with when you were developing these projects?
I can go if so I think for me, when I first wrote the thing, it was just for a creative outlet. I had a day career, or I have a day career, and I felt like I was missing that like creative part of my life. So, and again, my community was mostly like filmmakers, theater people, actors. And so I just wrote this like 10-minute thing and honestly never imagined that we would even film the whole season, to be honest. We only did it. It was like, I feel like my personality is I start trains that I can't really stop. And so when we got that grant, I was like, oh my God, we have to do this. And I wasn't planning on like most of 2019 working on this thing. But then once we got it, we were like, okay, 3 months, shoot in 3, like pre-production, done, do it. And so I think now seeing the reception of that, our grand dream has always been to turn it into a half-hour pilot and get it to series on an actual network. So that's the dream. Yeah.
Cool. So your dream's kind of evolved as you've continued.
Yes. Yes.
Very cool. Rohil, what about you?
Yeah, for me, the goal was just to have one final project that incorporated everyone that I met, because it might have been the last time that I was with those people. So it had more of like a sentimental quality to it. And I think for me, what success is creating something that laid down the groundwork or the foundation of the things that I want to talk about moving forward in my career. So it has a lot to do about what my experience with the South Asian diaspora, immigration, those sort of things. And then just what how how my community interfaces with contemporary discourse. So it was just laying the foundation so that the next thing I make, I can come into it with a little bit more wisdom and a little bit more wisdom and a little bit more wisdom.
I love that. I love that you're both here speaking on a panel at a film festival that both of you got selected for, but your initial goals with your projects was just creative flexing. You know, you wanted to work on something, you wanted to complete something. And I think that that's a really important thing to remember, is that that's 100% a valid goal and success metric, you know, to just make something, especially these days. And then once you've made it, if you've, you know, put intention and thoughtfulness into it, there's no end to where you might go. So that's really cool. And congratulations to both of you for being able to kind of evolve from there. So Flo, another question I wanted to talk to you about in context of sort of Shutterstock's sort of positioning in this community is I wanted to ask you about, obviously, the pandemic. So could you tell us what like one of the biggest changes to Shutterstock's strategy in supporting filmmakers and creators has been since the pandemic started? Like what has had to change so that you could still, you know, obviously protect and support your community, but also protect and support Shutterstock as a company and as wonderful employees like yourself?
That was definitely a lot had happened since March. So we would definitely recognize filmmakers today are facing a very unique challenge. There's like this increased demand of content, right? Combined with extremely limited production capabilities because of the restrictions in place. So a lot of our clients, they actually the shoots that are scheduled are being canceled and pilots are being postponed and strategies are being reassessed. And the entire entertainment industry is now learning new habits and making full use of the resources like that we provide, which is stock footage, music, and special effects that they have at their disposal. So customers today are actually like looking to us more than ever to help with their content. So shortly, like after lockdown, our team quickly launched a COVID resource hub, like I mentioned before, which provides articles with helpful industry updates and tips for freelancers and filmmakers like yourselves, and small businesses as well. So, and we also gave away a bunch of free stock images, videos, and music to help creators and businesses owners with their digital marketing needs to stay connected with their customers. And we don't stop there. I mean, our content team keeps pumping out articles these days, helpful tips regarding production best practices during lockdown and social distancing. And we also do ongoing free content giveaways still on the Shutterstock blog. And our goal here really is to help creators stay creative during this difficult time with limited resources and interaction with others. In terms of products, we have launched just in the last few months to help our customers. There's really quite a few to name. So first, we launched a 10 or 20 clips per month footage subscription, which is very cost effective compared to purchasing in packs or single clips. And then based on customer insights and activities, we noticed that there's actually a demand for smaller plans. So we recently launched a 5 clips per month plan. This small sub plan is really ideal for creators that are just starting to use videos in their content, or those who want a short-term, low-commitment option. So along with this launch, we also gave away 40 free HD and 4K clips, all resized and optimized for social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram and LinkedIn. So our goal here really is to answer for our customers' needs at this time, and really help equip them to use videos in their marketing, because we know that video content is definitely in a high demand right now. So on the music side, we launched a very cost-effective unlimited music plan, which is less than $17 a month. So creatives can pay $17 a month and get access to our full music library, which is quite a bit. And then for more professional producers and filmmakers, we launched a subscription plan for Premium Beat. This is the first ever subscription plan for that brand, which is our higher quality music library curated specifically for professionals. Now, for documentaries, filmmakers, or whoever that is more interested in the editorial side, we know now with the pandemic and all these breaking news every day, like creators are tasked to turn around relevant campaigns really, really quickly in matters of hours or even minutes sometimes. So we launched Asset Assurance, which really provides brands with like guaranteed protection to use our timely editorial content in their commercial projects. And most recently, we also launched the editorial video collection of 250,000 clips. This, along with Asset Assurance, really helps filmmakers and documentary producers to create and produce quickly without any worry. Wow. Very long-winded, but that's exactly
that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've been trying to encourage my students, some of whom have to produce a web series pilot in one semester and who have never made any film projects before. And they're all getting really nervous about like how small their worlds are going to have to be. And I've been trying to encourage them like, no, guys, like if you want a crowd shot, you don't have to get a crowd together. I'm sure there's a million people who have filmed a million crowds that you could potentially use, or like exterior shots or drone shots. Like your world does not have to be as small as your world actually is. Movie magic, right?
Totally. And I mean, like, you'd be surprised how much stock content are out there in movies and like it's something that like before I joined Shutterstock, like I never really noticed, but after I joined, because I look at the library all day, like I can't pinpoint all the stock content that are out there. All these B-rolls that are in movies and TV shows, they're all stock. So it's definitely eye-opening, and I think now all these industries are getting more used to using stock content as well, because you can turn it around really, really quickly and a lot cheaper as well. So
totally, yeah. I mean, why reinvent the wheel if someone's already got it ready for you? Mm-hmm. So speaking of the pandemic and how weird everything is now, for my filmmakers up here, have either of you made like a film project during the pandemic, or have you considered it? What was it, or if not, why not? Rohil, why don't we start with you this time?
Have I made a film during the pandemic?
Mm-hmm. Or started a film, or thought about starting a film?
No, I have. I actually only recently finished the edit of THRIBING, like right on the deadline to get it submitted to this festival. But I am excited to start something up again. I think that would be a unique challenge.
Are you thinking of like making it set during the pandemic, or are you thinking whatever it is, you're going to pretend like this never happened, or it happened like 3 years ago?
Coming from like just a place of never having resources to really make anything, my immediate go-to would be not to hide that, just to set it during the pandemic, and not necessarily have the story be about the pandemic, but have it just set in a world where the pandemic is happening.
Yeah, I mean, your filmmaking style, at least from THRIBING, was very kind of like dreamy and experimental. And I'm definitely curious to see what you end up doing during the pandemic. So hopefully you keep working on that. So Hung, what about you? Have you made anything, thought about making anything during this pandemic time?
The short answer is no, because I'm still recovering from our actual shoot. But I can tell you, my partner has made a feature during the pandemic.
Wow.
And is shooting another feature as an actor right now. So, I think when he made the feature that they made in like March, so like kind of end of March when everything was still kind of crazy, what they did was, it was a very skeleton crew. They brought everyone to this one house. It was kind of about the pandemic, but it was like more like a horror, had some vampires in it. It's called Banishment. You can search about it online. It's great. And they had access to equipment, and, his friends were DPs. So they kind of got the group together and made everyone quarantine, and they had, quarantine, process and stuff. They made everyone to wear masks. Like, you had to stay in your separate wings of the house. And so they were able to shoot it in like, I think 3 weeks, which is, crazy. And then the one that he's shooting now in Kentucky, they had a very stringent quarantine protocol. So they also brought everyone to a house. So it seems like people, when they think about doing a pandemic movie or a quarantine movie, it's like one location, 5, I guess, like max, like 7 actors, 7 to 10 actors. So people that they can really just like put in one place.
Sure. Do you know if the cost was higher for like their production budgets as a result of that, or was getting everyone in one big house kind of the original plan?
I think when in March, when they were doing that movie, they hadn't come out, like the union SAG hadn't come out with like the full, list of things yet. So they were just kind of like setting up their own protocols for that. And then, and I think like, I know that production costs do go up for COVID. I've seen a lot of people talk about hiring COVID compliant officers, paying for tests, making sure, I think it's like, I've seen like the numbers be like 8,000
wow.
A day or a couple days. It depends on like the number of people you have on your crew, obviously, but each test is like a couple $100. So depending on
I have some insight about that.
Oh yeah, please.
Currently, like we're the creative team at Shutterstock are trying to get a commercial put together that we cannot use stock content for, right? So we reach out to production agencies. A lot of them are not working. The only 2 that are working, they have a pretty substantially higher bill for us because like there's just really not that much competition out there, and there's just a lot of things that they have to do during the lockdown that is different from before. So right now, I think people are starting to want to produce content, but then at the same time, things are different now. And I've also heard stories about like directors remote directing the talent through computer, like through Zoom or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never seen any sort of like production coming out that way, but definitely I've heard production agencies using these kind of methods to direct through Zoom, and I've listened to how challenging those procedures is, and I'm definitely interested to see how far this would go.
I actually shot something over the weekend that was virtual directed. My web series, it's only 2 casts, but my co-star lives in LA and I live in New York, and also there's a pandemic, and the director lives in LA as well, and so my partner had to hold up a FaceTime to our monitor, and I would set camera and then go like act, and like the director would squint at like the monitor, like, can you shift the camera? It was very weird. Would not recommend the way we did it, but I think there's a way, if we do it again, I would recommend. But yeah, we did it, and it was definitely challenging because he couldn't always look at the exact like frame. So we kind of just had to like go off each other's guts and do a lot of pre-production of like shot testing and stuff so that he could approve that ahead of time. And then it was just up to me to like actually execute it. And I'll say I did okay. Not amazing,
sure you did a fantastic
but it was
job.
okay.
But like think about from a talent standpoint too, because like by the time you get all these instructions and you're not used to holding the camera, you're not used to be the one setting up to film yourself.
Yeah, that's somebody else's job.
Yeah, and like after all these instructions through Zoom, and you set up your camera, and you're all like exhausted already, and then you still have to act, and that's just draining. Like I can't imagine. Anyways,
it definitely was. So I'll just go on record and saying remote directing is a ride. So since neither of you have actually developed anything currently during quarantine, what are you working on right now? Because technically both of your shows are done. So what's next? What's on the pipeline?
Do you want to?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
You start.
Well, like I said, I'm trying to write I need to turn this into a half-hour pilot. So I'm writing that. We're trying to package that and basically kind of have the full, idea of the show as a half hour. But other than that, I have been, thinking about another kind of half-hour comedy. It would be like a mockumentary style. And then there's these 2 features that I've kind of been having in my head, mostly about my family background and sort of Vietnamese American history. that stuff.
Cool. What about you, Rohil?
In November, I'm hosting a show called Indie Game Feels, and it is a spotlight of LGBTQ and people of color in the independent game development space. So we just go through a bunch of games that made us feel something real, and talk to the creators.
Oh, that's cool.
So
like, is it
for
live streamed or produced?
No, it's all pre-recorded. Yeah.
Very cool. Is that also for Rooster Teeth?
That is for a YouTube channel called All Ages of Geek. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So is that going to be like an in-person shoot? Are you going to produce it remotely and then edit it together? Like, what's the logistics for that?
So that is most likely going to be, for the interview portions of it, will be remote, pre-recorded remote. Yeah.
So for both of you then, what I'm curious about is realistically, when do you hope to be able to mount a new like in-person production? What needs to happen before you're comfortable committing to that? Hung, what about you? What would make you actually comfortable going back to set and maybe not having, buy everyone a house for a couple of weeks money?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's a vaccine that works and is like widely distributed. There's a bunch of stuff that has to do with the vaccine, who knows, but at some point hopefully everyone will be like, yes, this vaccine is works. So that's for me. I don't think I could imagine myself doing a shoot during the pandemic, and especially at this point where I think I'm more focused on writing than actually shooting something. Yeah.
Rohil, what about you?
Yeah, for me as well. I think the in-person thing is going to be tricky for a little bit. Probably when there's a drastic reduce in numbers, or when there's a vaccine, or if people just, wear masks, that would be great. But
yeah, I guess we haven't mentioned that yet. Anyone in the audience, wear your mask, please. If we have any anti-maskers in the audience, you're not welcome here. Get out and come back wearing a mask because we can see you. And then we will let you back in. Yeah, I'm directing technically in person, but it's like a 2-person shoot with everyone lives together and has not left their apartment. But it's going to be an interesting experience because I'm with you guys. It does not seem safe to do, or obviously a regular production, but I've been trying to think of ways where I can keep it to 2 or 3 people and, remotely, one contingent somewhere else does something in their bubble and then our bubble does something. I don't know. It's definitely complicated, but it's also definitely not going to look the same for quite a while. So I think the type of content needs to adapt as well. You can't expect to make a traditional TV show right now. So maybe don't. Maybe make something different. Maybe, embrace your limitations. Like Rohil, you were saying, maybe it's not about the pandemic, but it's going to be during the pandemic because it's a pandemic, guys. Why would we shy away from that? And I think that's really smart. As content creators, you got to adapt. And hey, maybe lean on Shutterstock for some additional footage that you can't yourself get.
Yes, well, that, and also there's a rise of UGC, as you guys know. I mean, especially right after the pandemic. I mean, UGC is the thing right now. And it's almost it's been around for a while, but now everybody realized that UGC is fine. The speed to market is more important than pixel perfect polished content, how we used to. And everybody is just more, they're just okay. Consumers and customers, they're completely fine with your content being a little bit more pixelated than it used to, or models just shooting their photo shoot for fashion brands at home, and that's completely fine. So I think this is something that is changing, and it's going to be a trend, and I think that this is going to stick even after the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, did you guys see that Robert Pattinson article a couple of months ago where he had to take a bunch of pictures of himself in his London apartment? Those pictures alone are a reason that we should continue letting actors and models take their own photos. Truly iconic.
Yeah, there are also fashion shoots at home. I forgot which one, but celebrities are taking pictures of themselves for magazines covers, and they look amazing. So It's definitely it changed perspective quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think that the changing perspective doesn't have to be a bad thing. You know, we can all be depressed in our actual lives, but hey, maybe it'll lead to something more interesting because of all of this nonsense in our art. So Flo, on kind of the subject of using Shutterstock, using stock libraries to kind of diversify the kind of stuff that you're able to make, even if you can't capture all of your footage yourself. Have you ever thought of like a really creative use of stock footage that you just can't believe more people aren't doing, or that you hope to see more people doing? Like, is there a particular use that somebody might not have thought of yet that you're like, but why? It's right there.
I can't really think of anything that nobody had done, but I can think of something that is really outstanding.
Okay.
So I think in July this year, I came across this music video by this DJ group Bronson, and it's the name of the music video of the song is "Keep Moving." So they came up with this music video, and it's created during lockdown, obviously, and so this video is combined together by a bunch of the stockiest clips that you can find, like businessmen shaking hands and corporate people laughing during a meeting. So all these clips were really like stocky clips, and they put them together. But then they manipulated and layered with CGI and of course a really cool soundtrack. It was an amazing piece, and it definitely was very, very fun to watch. And you guys should definitely take a look at it. I will send you guys the link when I have a chance. It looks amazing. I mean,
maybe Stareable can tweet it out later.
Yeah, I mean, it's stock, and it's obvious stock too. It's not even like they were trying to hide it. So,
sure.
So that I thought was really, really creative. And I think one of the video editors in my team actually showed me once as well. Like he's very into 3D renderings, and he's constantly using stock vectors and stock footage to do like patterns or texture. He calls it the shaders. So he puts it as like textures on the 3D rendering, so you don't really have to create any of the textures yourself in After Effects. And apparently it's like a super huge time saver. So
that's cool. Anyone who's smart enough to do that, do that, I guess.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I can think of.
No, that's great. I'm excited to watch that music video now. So for the filmmakers, something that you can probably both relate to, since we've sort of talked about this already, is that a lot of people have found themselves kind of like re-examining their careers and their priorities this year. Like when you're stuck in a single place for 8 months, it's sort of like, is this what my life is going to be like? So I'm curious if either of you have made decisions or have learned something new about yourself and your future career during quarantine. Like, are you planning on moving forward with one thing over another, moving to a new city or state, thinking of trying something new? Like what has shifted about your creative perspective in these couple of months? Rohil, why don't we start with you?
I think it really sunk in how much I want to stay in New York, specifically around the time during the pandemic where there was this talk of my particular visa situation being no longer, there being a halt on it. Sure. And that really sunk in. It was something that I felt close to graduation when I made the film, but it's something that really hit me again in a major way, that I've spent my entire adult life in this country. So it was a very difficult thing, and it put a lot of things into perspective in terms of what an insane opportunity it is that I get to be here. And it just made me feel a lot more motivated that with the time I have here to make the most of that and continue creating.
That's really cool. Hung, what about you?
I decided that I didn't want to be in the city, and I wanted to be somewhere quiet and have calmness in my life. So in July, our lease was up, and we decided to move, at least for just a year, maybe two. That, and then I think also the thing that put it into perspective for me is do the things that you want to do if you can do them. You know, if you have the resources to do it, because honestly, I don't know if there's going to be a world in 2021. So
so why not be happy?
Yeah.
Flo, what about you? I see you nodding along. So do you have any sort of big picture things changing for you as a result of this quarantine? Moments of clarity?
Moments of clarity. That's just a lot going on. We're in the middle of moving, so I think, yes, like as Han was saying, like you just never really know. So like I think, you know, just be happy and like just never really. You know, I always want to plan things out ahead, but like it's just now this year, I think like I'm not the only one here, and like everybody realized that you can't plan things because things just go into a mess, like you know, when things happen. So I think, you know, definitely learning to let things go and be a little bit more flexible is a big reflection this year.
No, I guess, you know, that's a good thing to learn now, if not another time. So audience members, do we have any questions coming in? I've definitely got more questions to ask, but if our lovely series of twitching floating heads would like to chime in, I'll just remind you guys how to ask questions if you have not been here before. So you can use the hand icon at the bottom if you want to like come on screen and ask your question person to person. But if you'd prefer to just type and I'll read your question out and we'll chat about it, you can use the question mark bubble icon, and both of these should be at the bottom of your screen. So hand if you want to talk out loud, question mark bubble if you want to just type the question. But if there are no questions quite yet, I'll let you guys really think about it. Question for my filmmakers. How are you guys, if you're comfortable talking about it, currently making your living, and has the pandemic changed or shifted this? Because I think it's important for, you know, all of us creatives who go on panels and talk about our art to also be realistic about like, yeah, but I'm not making money from this yet. This is what I am making money from. This is what has enabled me to create this awesome art that we get to talk about. Rohil, what about you? How are you making a living right now? Has that changed during the pandemic? If you're comfortable talking about it, of course.
Yeah. So it changed quite drastically right before the pandemic hit. I had transitioned out of a role, one of the first big projects I took on as a writer on a project in the video game industry. And so I had a little bit of confidence transitioning out of that. Like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm ready to just be a filmmaker and do my thing. Pandemic hits like right at that moment. And so now I just have that like small amount, like the savings from that. And I'm like, okay, how long is this going to last me? Like, what can I do to sustain this? And so from that point on, it was like a big struggle for a while until I was able to establish a couple of consistent freelance opportunities coming in the form of writing for the show on Rooster Teeth, Recreo, doing the hosting thing, coming up with All Ages of Geek.
Very cool. Hung, what about you?
So my day job is I'm a product manager at an education company, and I've been lucky enough. You know, that was my career for a while before I decided to start writing. So I'm still in the job. You know, we've always been remote, so it's not really been a big change for me. So feeling, very lucky. I think there's a lot of privilege involved sometimes in being able to create film because it's so expensive. It's incredibly expensive. I think that's always a topic that, you know, people should talk about.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important that we're all realistic with one another, because I think a lot of, especially new filmmakers, think like once they make their first film, they'll immediately start like being able to just make money off of it. But that's rarely the case. Even, you know, award-winning filmmakers, even Oscar qualifying like shorts filmmakers are probably not exclusively making a living from that. So that's why having multiple income streams, like, either having a day job, having freelance gigs like Rohil, selling your stock footage to Shutterstock and having that kind of passively in the background. I teach at 2 programs and also sort of on a freelance basis. Like I've got I think I have 5 jobs right now that I'm actively doing in addition to my day job. Like, listen, we're all just out here to hustle so that we can make some more cool films. It looks like we got a question coming in for Flo. I'm not quite sure if it is a hand raised question or if it's going to be a text question. So, okay. Text question. Amazing. I love the surprise of all of this. So are the low cost $5 a month subscriptions still available, or are they only a short-term promotional plan? Thanks for your time.
It's actually not $5 per month. It's 5 clips per month.
Got it.
Yes.
You know what the price is off the top of your head? Do you know what the price is for the subscriptions is off the top of your head?
I'm thinking, I don't really, we just launched it and so you can pay it month by month or you pay annual upfront. Definitely go on our site. It's like right on our homepage right now. We just launched it last week. So
great. So it's still available to answer that question.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. I think another question just came in, so we'll wait for that. Hung, you mentioned earlier, speaking of money, you talked about getting a grant. Can you talk about the grant process really quick? Like what made you go for grant first? Because I know you eventually crowdfunded, but what was the grant process like?
Yeah, so New York Women in Film in 2019, New York Made in NY in 2019 started a program for women filmmakers, theater artists, musicians, and they gave away $1 million to, I think, 100 something people. And so we had heard about this grant and we had this pilot. So I was like, well, why not just apply? And the process is pretty easy. You just have to make sure you leave time to answer all the essay questions. And they asked about your team and the team that you've put together. And then having something to show. I think it was very helpful that we had something to actually put into the grant and say, hey, we've made it, we just need the rest. So that was the grant process. And and then I forgot about it. And, 3 months later, they were like, congratulations. And at first, when I opened that email, I thought it was a marketing email because I was like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, anytime you apply for something, they add you to their email list and you just are all of a sudden getting all these newsletters I guess I'll say subscribe because I do want to know if I won, but come on.
Yeah. But every year New York has this grant. I think, I don't know if the pandemic has changed any of it, but they had a whole bucket of money that they were using to.
Made in NY has a couple different grant programs. They have a TV writers one, fellowship, I think, kind of, or lab as well. So it looks like we have another question from Louis. Louis asks, do any of you have experience in selling pilot scripts? And also digital as well. Like Rohil, you said that you developed this web series yourself. So do you want to start?
Yeah.
Have you had experience?
I've not. I have no experience selling pilots. I have pitched a pilot before. It did not go well.
Oh no!
So
was it to a digital platform or to traditional?
It was to traditional back in South Africa. Just being sort of naive and 19 and just trying to get into the room with people and pitch things. I don't have any experience selling a pilot. But I have pitched to digital before. This is the first thing that has gotten picked up as a part of All Ages of Geek. I was already writing for the site, so I kind of had an in there, and the stuff I was covering was already trying to highlight POC in the gaming space. Because again, I came from gaming, so it was something that I was very passionate about. I already had that in, and a big chunk of the show that I pitched was just reformatting a thing that I was writing already into a video series.
Cool. Hung, do you have any experience yet in pitching pilots?
So I am learning right now. We premiered at Outfest and we were able to get attention from a few like people who are at the level. And so my understanding, and I think this is sort of the process that we're going through now, is that to get into the room with like networks and like Netflix and the Hulus and the HBO, you do kind of need representation, like through a manager, an agent, anything like that, someone to advocate for your show, advocate for you, and send your stuff out to people that you would never have access to. And so, I mean, I think we're lucky enough that, we're able to make connections with those people and they were really excited. And so now I think it's about developing the pilot with those people and then putting a package together where they actually take it and go out and pitch for you. But I think there's also avenues for distribution. There's plenty of like smaller streaming services that are trying to build up their content library. And so that's definitely an avenue as well.
Yeah, not for nothing, but Stareable Fest every year hooks up as many of its official selections as possible with various industry partners. So I think both of you have a handful of industry meetings coming up. So hey, those in the audience, if you have a show that you're developing, definitely submit it to Stareable Fest, because that's like one of the big goals with Stareable Fest is to try and bridge that gap, maybe get around some of the gatekeepers to get to the decision makers straight away. So if there are folks, feel free. I think we have time for one more question. I also have a question I'd like to end on, but if there's anyone in the audience that has another question for our awesome panel here, it's been an awesome discussion. Thanks so much for being here tonight, guys. That's just a thank you from Yasmin. So thank you, Yasmin, for asking the question. But if there are any other questions, ask them now or forever hold your peace until you get on Twitter, because I'm sure all of these folks will be happy to chat. So as you guys think about that, I have one final question for all of my lovely panelists. And that question is, what are some things that you hope the film industry, either mainstream or indie, interpret as you will learn or change as a result of the pandemic? What's the big picture silver lining that you're hoping for? Flo, I'll start with you.
I mean, going back to, I think creators now hopefully realize that they can build some pretty amazing things using stock with a fraction of the cost and time. And selfishly, as much as I love Netflix, HBO Max, and Disney Plus, I hope that the industry will continue to support the theater industry by working with them on upcoming productions. I miss going to the movies. That's one of my my favorite activities. So that's pretty much it. And I just think ultimately utilizing stock by making videos instead of shooting videos is going to make your clients love the cost and speed. So
it's a good hot tip. Rohil, what about you? What's your big picture silver lining you hope is a takeaway from all of this awful?
I don't know. I've noticed a lot of digital content over this time of the pandemic becoming a lot more unhinged. And so I think what I'd like to see is a lot more of that stuff not being considered like alt comedy or like niche. Sure. And just being, I don't know, just having like a wider like spectrum of like weird, like crazy, interesting things. I think that's always good.
Totally. Hung, what about you?
Yeah, I think it would be great to see more character-driven stuff, because if you're only limited to one location, 2 people, you really just kind of have your characters to build. So that would be really cool to see.
Yeah, no, I agree. And kind of speaking to what all of you said, I think my big picture hopeful takeaway is that people start to respect the kind of experimental stuff more, because I think that's something that web series have always done really well, is that because we are not constrained by network and broadcast restrictions, there's so much more variety. There's way more found footage in web series, obviously, than there ever has been in film. And some of the great films are found footage. So like experimenting with form and structure and using limitations as part of like the story and making interesting choices instead of just, well, this is how it's always been done choices for both format and for casting and writing. I think that is something that we need to remember, is that like there's an audience out there for everything. If 1 or 2 people like what you're doing, there's probably 10 million people who are going to love what you're doing. You just got to connect to them. And I hope that people start letting past some of these more weird, unhinged, character-driven things that we've all loved for so long, but they just haven't been letting get past a certain level. So that's my big hope for the future. But yeah, I just want to thank all 3 of you again for your time tonight. Where can we hear more about you and your work? We'll just go in order. So Flo, shameless plug time. Where can we find you? What should we go look up next?
Well, I am very active on social media, so you can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. My handle on LinkedIn is at flo.laubi, so you can find me there. So yeah, that's where you can find me, and of course, check out my portfolio as well, and check out Shutterstock.
Great, Rohil.
You can check out THRIBING.tv. That's where I'm going to be posting up a lot of my work. You can follow me on Twitter at Rohil. I have entertaining breakdowns on there all the time. So if you're into
you're
that.
Promising us something really unhinged, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Something spicy. And check out Recreo on Rooster Teeth. It's a really fun show.
Great. And Hung, what about you?
Check out sidewaysmileseries.com or at Sideways Smile Series. Go watch the show.
Yeah,
Stareable.
definitely. Yeah, remember you can click, there's a TV icon on the left. So that's where you can go to watch a bunch of great shows. So thank you so much, all 3 of you, for being here. So to talk to the audience really quickly before you all go off to enjoy your Friday night, the next session that you can expect from Stareable that's actually programmed and not just, the awesome films that you can watch whenever you like, is a Q&A talkback for the short form comedy block Block 7 show. So short form comedy Block 7. It's happening tomorrow, Saturday, October 17th from 1 to 1:30 Eastern time, featuring Diane and Hung from Sideways Smile. So you'll see more of Hung then. Julie Pearson from the Boxcar Adults, Wendy Littner and Lauren Korber from How to Buy a Baby, Jesse Vogler from Pull My Finger, and Lindsay Middleton from Just Hysteric. So hear from some of our short form comedy geniuses tomorrow. Once again, that's October 17th, tomorrow, 1 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, as always, continue watching all of the great shows. So thanks so much to our sponsors for this panel, Shutterstock, of course, but also to the greater Stareable Fest folks, sponsors, Dell Technologies, AMC Networks, and Adorama as well. And have a lovely rest of your night, folks. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, guys.